But watch this, Fred. If you could strengthen this Patriots team in one area before Thursday night, where would it be?
Do I have to pick just one, Hardy?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, offensive line.
There you go.
I think I wanted to come in with something this morning just to further the discussion. So I started watching the game over like the tape where you can see all the 22 players on the field, and I started right at the point where they Gibson had that 45-yard run, right? And it looked like they were in great position to win the game in the fourth quarter. And the breakdowns on the offensive line from that point on were notable. And I think I'll just say one thing, Hardy, like Micah Wenu, good right tackle, did not account well for himself. I would say from that point on, I think there were about three key snaps toward the end of the game where you would hope that the player that you made a significant investment in, 3 years, 57 million, wins in those situations. He didn't. I wonder how much heat conditioning. It was tough, tough day for those guys. But I thought in the key moments that the line let him down a little bit, and it wasn't just him, but. And that's not till there's other stuff, but I think I would start there.
Well, you heard Jerron Mayo after the game, and we played the clip already today saying, yeah, we need to push the ball down the field. 2 weeks of watching this team play, they can't push the ball down the field because Jacoby Brissett doesn't have enough time to push the ball down the field.
And I think that's part of it, John. I do. There are times where when I watch it, what I do is right when Jacoby puts his back foot in the ground and he's at the top of his drop, I stop the film and I look at the picture and I say, is anyone open? And there are times no, because he's got to move before so quickly because the pressure's getting there. But John, there are other times, and this is so you can't put it all on the line where he does have time and there's no one open. And I think that's the other part. So when Hardy said one thing that you could improve, I did start with the line, but I got to tell you, I don't see receivers getting open consistently, like early in the progression of the quarterback's read. And that would be the second thing that I would say. And that's a hard way to play offense when those are the two things holding you back.
All right. So what's the difference between, do you think this team's going to be able to run against everyone? For instance, the Jets on Thursday night, the Jets don't defend well against the run the first 2 weeks of the season. They didn't yesterday either, necessarily. They kind of tightened up at the end. But do you think that they'll be able to do this all season, or sitting on the short routes, loading up against the run, is this something that teams are going to figure out and be able to take advantage of?
I think it would be more the second part, Fred. Like, I think teams figure it out and will be able to slow it down. I have to be honest, I didn't think they would be able to run it as well as they did yesterday against Seattle. So, I mean, I guess I got to hold myself accountable there. I would have never thought that would have been the output. But to me, this is a hard way to think that you can play and that it can sustain over 17 games. You have to be able to get more in the passing game. And I will say one thing I wrote in my notes that I want to look deeper at is I think the other part of this. So we talked about offensive line. We talked about receivers uncovering. I wonder if sometimes their routes are taking too long to develop, that maybe they need some more quick hitter plays. And I think the difference, just as I started watching the game over, like this, especially early in the game, the Seahawks had some quick plays, get the ball out of Geno Smith's hands quickly. Maybe that can be something that Alex Van Pelt turns to, because if the line's having trouble protecting and the receivers are having trouble getting open consistently, maybe you need to work a little bit more of that quick game to take the burden off of them.
Do you think, though, that if a team knows you're not throwing downfield, that they can just sit on that?
Yeah.
Like, is it still possible to run that short passing game if teams know you're going to do it or sitting on it?
So I think I think it is possible, Fred, because I think that the Patriots are trying to get the ball down the field. I just don't think it, at least from what I've seen so far, I just don't think anyone is open. And so, like, there are times, like, I'll just use the first play, the first third down play of the game yesterday. I wrote in my notes it was third and 2, and it was a good pocket, like they protected, and it wasn't like he had time. Brissett had time, and there was one player who might have been open, Jalen Polk, left to right, coming across the middle. But I just think by the time Jacoby Brissett got to that part in his progression, he didn't feel comfortable going to that. And so to me, that I don't know. I just think to me, there's a little bit of a talent question here. Like,
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because last week I had said on the show that the receiver room was bad.
Here we go.
It wasn't good, and I got a lot of blowback from John and Hardy, and even callers called and said how dumb I was and how much an idiot I was.
Well, but here's the difference. Let me ask Mike a question. Why is DeMario Douglas, who has some talent, he doesn't complete
we don't know that, by the way, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we know from last year that he's got some talent. Why is
I would disagree. Do you know that Pop Douglas is a good football player, a good NFL football player, Mike?
So Fred, I would probably lean more toward the guys on this one. I think he had 51 catches last year. If I have it right, I'll check my notes. I think he was, one of their leading receivers. So I thought he was good. That was a different system.
Right.
But he's on the pay no mind list right now. No targets yesterday. So what's the reasoning behind that? Or what's the explanation?
I started watching it over. There were a couple times that he was, flashed open, and I wrote in my notes, I'm just not sure he was like the first or second read. Listening to Mayo after the game yesterday, I think it sounds like they're going to do some things to get him going. I think it might come back, guys, to the idea that the routes are longer developing routes, and he's a shorter, his game is a short game. And so maybe they need to incorporate that more. But that's sort of an instinct I have, haven't made it through the game yet on review.
Is this a team that can run a 2-minute drill adequately? I bring this up because I saw what happened at the end of regulation, and there was no chance in their own end that they were going to drive the football down the field. This offense looks to be run first and then run second, and if they are somehow in a passing down, try to throw the ball 10 yards downfield. Am I missing something?
No, you're not missing it, John. I wrote in because I watched that fourth quarter drive. They get the ball at their 30-yard line, and you got to protect. That would be the thing. Like they're not going to be able to run a 2-minute drive until they can protect. And I had on first down, it was a 4-man rush, and I had the routes took too long to develop. And by the time, so that was first down, that was the incomplete pass over the middle to Ramondre when Jacoby just sort of threw it at his feet because the pressure got there before the routes developed. So that's protection. The second down play was a blitz. Ramondre sort of picked it up. Jacoby got it off to Polk for 7 yards. So it's 3rd and 3. So you're still living here. You still have a chance, John. And then Awenu was beaten at right tackle. Play had no chance. So the answer to the question is they can't run a 2-minute drive until they protect better.
Okay, would you play Drake May in this offense?
No.
Okay, so my question is this, Mike. Brissett looks like he's going to get hurt. And no one
yesterday.
No one wants it, and I'm not, if you feel uncomfortable with that terminology, Brissett is getting hit a lot. Let's just put it that way, because you cover the team, and I don't want anyone to think negatively of you. So Brissett's getting hit a lot. If I'm a Patriots fan, I fear Drake May even coming into a game and having to be behind this line with this receiver group. I mean, this is the kind of thing that screws up people. And just real quickly, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, all considered failures. All high draft picks. Oh, Geno Smith was not, but he was the first pick quarterback taken in that draft.
Yeah.
All stuck around, and look at them yesterday. They all win. They all had good games. I mean, it can happen. It shows you. That's just evidence that those guys were in situations where they could not thrive. Do you think that? Are you concerned about May coming in and having to play like a game and a half, 2.5 games. Are you concerned about that?
Fred, I'm with you on this one, and I would just simplify it. Look at the receivers the Seahawks had yesterday, and look at how good they are. DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett. And then look at what the Patriots had on the other side. It's not that KJ Osborne and Jalen Polk and Pop Douglas aren't good players, but we're talking about elite level receivers on the other side. That makes Geno Smith's job a lot easier. And so I'm with you, Fred. I'm with you on this. I would tread very lightly putting Drake May out there until you see a little bit more positive momentum in for the Patriots in that area. And I don't even know when that's going to happen, but it just, for me, it would need more time.
Okay, so does that mean you bring a veteran in to be the backup, or not in practice? You know what I'm saying? Not take first team reps in practice at all, because the way they're splitting things, I understand what they're doing developing May. But in case there is an injury, that you have a veteran that can come into a game, so Drake May doesn't have to come in, or a guy who can start the next game.
So I guess I maybe I was answering differently. So you're saying if Jacoby got hurt, would you not put Drake in because of that situation? Is that what you're saying, Fred?
Yes.
Oof. That's a tough one. I think I would probably put Drake in based on the fact that, like, I would probably put Drake in, and at this point, Fred, I'm crossing my fingers that it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, I think what would happen if they did end up putting Drake in, it's going to be a really anticlimactic event because he's going to go in and they're going to end up running the ball 80% of the time.
Sure, no, there's no doubt about that. But my concern would be that he had to play the next game.
Yeah.
And then you can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have to play an NFL football game.
We are assuming that Brissett is going to get hurt, and it sure looks like that's going to happen. He's already been dinged a couple of times, Mike. So the odds are ever increasing because they're not protecting for him that he will get hurt, and this will be a very real decision that this organization is going to have to make.
Yeah, and I think going back to, coming out of the preseason and training camp, I know it was unconventional, but that's why I thought that keeping Bailey Zappi might have been a consideration, even though it would have been 4 quarterbacks, on the roster for this exact hypothetical that we're talking about. They didn't do it, so this is the situation that they're in, and I guess we'll see how it turns out. But I will say this on Jacoby Brissett: we know that's one tough guy. I mean, that was a beating I felt like he took yesterday, and to stay in there and hang in there, I was impressed by it. But you're right. I mean, it looks to me like that's a tenuous situation.
Yeah, he's earning his money. I mean, good for him. I mean, he's a professional. So I got no knock on Jacoby. He's obviously tough. I'm just concerned that he's going to get hurt. All right, Mike Reiss, good job as always. We look forward to you being all over the place, and then Thursday night you come back. I mean, and then you have a big long week to just luxuriate in your hot tub, and we can look forward to that. All right, Mike Reiss, thank you so much, sir.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the show.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.